Everything we thought we knew about this sport is getting questioned right now. Chimaev loses to Strickland when nobody gave Strickland a chance. Merab loses to Peter Yan when nobody gave Yan a chance in the first fight. Ilia Topuria, undefeated, dominant, the most composed champion the sport had produced in years, quits on his stool against a 38-year-old Justin Gaethje who everyone had essentially written off. And now we are 3 weeks out from McGregor versus Holloway at UFC 329, and the argument that Conor McGregor can not only win but can knock out Max Holloway deserves to be made seriously, because the precedent for ignoring the upset is now sitting directly in front of us wearing a propeller hat. This is not a hype video. This is a tactical argument. And it starts with something that the MMA community has been reluctant to acknowledge for the last several years. Conor McGregor is genuinely one of the greatest strikers in the history of this sport. Not a flash in the pan. Not a Cody Garbrandt situation where a man had a spectacular run and then the wheels came off. A man who knocked out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds with a step-back pull counter left hand in the most anticipated featherweight title fight ever staged. A man who ran through Chad Mendes, Max Holloway the first time, Dustin Poirier the first time, Eddie Alvarez in a performance that still holds up as one of the most complete championship efforts the lightweight division has ever seen. He gave Khabib Nurmagomedov the hardest fight of Khabib's career, and the argument that Gaethje or anyone else did more against Khabib based on round survival completely misses the point. Surviving rounds is not the same as threatening the opponent. McGregor threatened Khabib in ways that nobody else managed. Coming off a massive layoff, having not fought for nearly 2 years, he walked into the cage against the most dominant grappler in the sport's history and made him work. That history matters when you are evaluating what McGregor is capable of when he arrives prepared and healthy. The matchup argument for McGregor against Holloway is where this gets genuinely interesting, and it requires setting aside the surface narrative to engage with the actual tactical details. The first and most underappreciated element is the kicking game. McGregor kicks better than Holloway in the specific dimension that matters most for this fight. Holloway is known as a volume striker with elite combinations and forward pressure, but his leg kick game is not the weapon that Dustin Poirier's was against McGregor. Poirier specifically and repeatedly used outside calf kicks in a southpaw versus southpaw dynamic to chop McGregor's lead leg down to the point where McGregor himself described having an American football in his leg. That was a specific and devastating weapon applied with precision over the course of multiple rounds. Holloway does not use the low kick that way. He is more likely to go to oblique kicks, jumping spinning back kicks to the body, head kicks, and body kicks as he steps back, all of which are real and legitimate weapons, but none of which represent the same systematic leg destruction that Poirier applied. McGregor, on the other hand, has a powerful kicking offense that operates across multiple levels. He has wheel kicks from the top. He has body kicks that he can load into with genuine power. He has calf kicks that, against an opponent who is circling and moving, can land with significant impact. And the evidence for what calf kicks do to Max Holloway is sitting in the results of his most recent fights. When Ilia Topuria started landing those calf kicks consistently, Holloway's offense went out the window. He got backed up, pressured against the cage, and finished. Justin Gaethje landed them consistently throughout the fight before the knockout. Volkanovski beat Holloway 3 times using leg kicks as the setup for everything else. This is not a peripheral detail. It is a pattern that describes a documented vulnerability in Holloway's game when opponents can land consistently to the lead leg. And McGregor's kicking power, particularly at 170 pounds where he is the bigger, more physically developed fighter, represents a genuine threat to exploit that vulnerability in ways that Holloway's camp needs to specifically prepare for. The weight class dimension is the second under-examined element of this matchup. Both men are known as featherweights and lightweights. The casual framing of this fight treats 170 as a neutral weight class where neither man has an advantage. But that is not accurate. McGregor has fought at 170 before. He beat Nate Diaz at this weight in the rematch, a fight he had to win after losing the first. He is built for this weight class in a way that his featherweight and lightweight physique did not fully reveal. The girth, the muscularity, the physical presence at 170, these things favor a man who carries natural welterweight size and was always cutting to make the lower classes. Holloway coming up from 155, potentially without the kind of full-cycle weight cut preparation that his previous fights involved, may arrive at fight night as the physically smaller man. That is not a minor consideration against a counterpuncher whose power has always been built into his natural size rather than manufactured through extreme bulk. The Max Holloway chin question is the third element, and it is the one that has been most visibly developing in the fight film. Holloway was dropped in 3 of his last 4 fights. He was rocked multiple times in the clinch by Charles Oliveira, a man who is not primarily known as a knockout artist but whose clinch work and body shots created the cumulative damage that wobbled Holloway. He was dropped by Dustin Poirier. He was hit by Gaethje in exchanges that moved him before the calf kick damage finally accumulated to the point of no return. The picture that emerges from watching Holloway's recent fights closely is of a man whose chin is no longer the absolute granite foundation it was during his featherweight dominance. He is still durable. He still gets up. He still fires back. But he is touchable now in ways that he was not 5 years ago, and the things that touch him, counter left hands on the inside, body shots when his high guard shell defense leaves the torso exposed, are specifically the weapons that McGregor has been throwing his entire career. Consider the specific scenario that the tactical analysis points toward. McGregor uses kicks early to control distance and force Holloway to think about leg protection alongside everything else. He is patient with the counter, waiting for Holloway to commit to his volume, those pitter-patter combinations that Holloway uses to build pace and pressure, and times the slip-off line from the straight right or the lead uppercut as Holloway fires. When Holloway is rocked and tries to fire back, which he always does, because that is his competitive identity, he opens himself up to the left hand coming behind whatever he throws in response. The corkscrew lead uppercut to left-hand combination that McGregor has always favored is specifically built for this situation. An opponent who shells up high in defense and goes to fire back immediately after being hurt, leaving the body or the chin briefly exposed depending on which direction the follow-up goes. The body shot dimension is particularly interesting. Holloway uses a high shell guard that blocks well from the outside, but creates a specific opening to body shots for someone who can time the entry. McGregor leaps into body kicks with genuine power. There is a frame from the Holloway vs. Poirier fight where Holloway is blocking high, expecting a punch, and Poirier was able to exploit the body exposure. McGregor, who is taller, heavier, and more physically developed at this weight, blasting that same opening with a body kick could create the kind of reaction that sets up the finish. Hands come down to the body, head becomes available, left hand finds the chin. This is not a hypothetical. It is a sequence that follows logically from what the film shows about Holloway's defensive tendencies. The grappling dimension is the one where McGregor's advantages are least acknowledged but most significant. Holloway is not a grappling-based fighter. His takedown statistics against Charles Oliveira, one of the greatest submission artists in the history of the sport, were essentially 0. He could not take Oliveira down despite repeated attempts and was controlled clinch-side throughout that fight. McGregor, whose takedown defense statistics do not fully represent his actual competency, has passed legitimate grappling tests. He handled Chad Mendes at the highest level of the wrestling-based game. He had genuinely competitive exchanges with Nate Diaz, a man who weighs 185 pounds. His scrambling ability off the ground is real. If Holloway tries to mix in grappling to slow McGregor down and take away the power, which is the logical approach for any trainer building a game plan against a counterpuncher with this kind of raw finishing ability, the advantage in that dimension does not clearly favor Holloway the way the casual analysis assumes. The window argument is perhaps the most honest piece of this entire analysis. McGregor is not going to be winning a 5-round decision against Max Holloway. If this fight goes into the championship rounds, the activity level, the pace, and the volume that Holloway generates when he is healthy and conditioned will become the decisive factor. McGregor has never been a cardio athlete. His system is built on explosive early exchanges and finishing power. The window where he is most dangerous is the first 8 to 10 minutes. If Holloway gets through that window without being dropped, without being significantly hurt, without having his pace disrupted by leg damage, then the fight trends in the direction that most analysts predict. But 8 to 10 minutes is a long time. And the question the tactical analysis forces is whether it is actually reasonable to believe that Max Holloway, who has been dropped in 3 of his last 4 fights, can go 8 to 10 minutes against Conor McGregor at 170 pounds without getting hit cleanly at least once by the most accurate left hand in the sport's history. The answer is not obviously yes. And in the current competitive environment, where Strickland beats Chimaev, where Yen beats Merab, where a 38-year-old Gaethje makes the undefeated champion quit on the stool, the answer being not obviously yes is enough to make this fight genuinely dangerous for Holloway and genuinely interesting for everyone else. The pick is McGregor by knockout inside 2 rounds, with the honest caveat that this pick requires McGregor to show up healthy, prepared, and at something close to the version of himself that fought Poirier in the second fight, sharp, composed, using the full toolkit. If ring rust is as significant as 5 years of absence suggests it might be, the fight follows the conventional trajectory. But if the camp has genuinely rebuilt what the injury and the layoff took away, and if the kicking game and the body shots and the counter left hand operate anywhere near their historical effectiveness, Max Holloway walking into this fight as a massive favorite is the kind of assumption that the last 12 months of results have made very difficult to hold with full confidence. The propeller hat is on. The upset pick is in. Check back after July 11th.